Tokyo Imperial Headquarters, August 6, 1945, 8:16 a.m. The telephone rings in a room that smells of stale cigarette smoke and yesterday's tea. Not the urgent double ring that signals crisis, but the standard measured tone that suggests routine communication. Captain Mitsuo Fuchida, intelligence liaison, picks up the receiver expecting a weather report or supply requisition. Instead, he hears static, then silence, then a voice thin and shaking speaking too fast. All communications with Hiroshima have ceased. Fuchida's hand tightens on the receiver. His other hand, the one holding a pen mid-signature, freezes above a requisition form for rifle ammunition that will never reach its destination. "Repeat that," he says, though he heard perfectly. "Hiroshima, we've lost all contact. Radio, telephone, telegraph, everything went dead simultaneously at approximately 8:15. The clock on the wall reads 8:17, 1 minute. Hiroshima has been silent for 1 minute. In 60 seconds, the world has changed. But the men in Tokyo don't know it yet. They don't know that 70,000 people have already died. They don't know that the war they've been fighting for 4 years with bullets and bombs and blood has just become something else entirely. Something for which they have no protocol, no contingency plan, no vocabulary. If you've never heard what happened in the next 48 hours, you're not alone. This is the story textbooks don't tell. The moment when military certainty collapsed into confusion, when trained officers tried to make sense of the impossible. Hit subscribe, because you're about to witness the most crucial 48 hours in human history, told from the side that lost everything in a single flash of light. The Imperial Headquarters building sits in central Tokyo, a fortress of concrete and bureaucracy designed to project permanence. Inside, the machinery of war grinds on with the rhythmic precision of a clock that doesn't know it's already stopped. 3 floors up, General Yoshijiro Umezu, chief of the Imperial General Staff, is reviewing casualty reports from Okinawa. The numbers are catastrophic. 110,000 Japanese soldiers dead. Umezu's face shows nothing. He has seen catastrophic numbers before. By August 1945, catastrophe has become routine. His adjutant, Lieutenant Colonel Takeshita, enters without knocking. This violation of protocol is the first sign that something has fractured. "General Hiroshima." Umezu looks up. Takeshita's face is the color of ash. Communications have ceased, all frequencies, all lines. Umezu sets down his pen with deliberate care, as if this small act of normalcy can hold back whatever comes next. When? 8:15, 7 minutes ago. Bombing raids. No air raid sirens were activated. No reports of enemy aircraft. The weather station reported clear skies at 800. This is impossible. Hiroshima is a major military hub, home to the 2nd Army Headquarters. 350,000 civilians, 40,000 soldiers, 5 military factories. You don't lose a city of that size to silence without bombs, without warning, without someone, somewhere, managing to scream. "Send reconnaissance," Umezu orders. "Radio, ground, air, I want confirmation in 30 minutes. Takeshita hesitates. "Sir, we've already attempted radio contact. There's no response from any military installation, any civilian authority, any emergency service. It's as if." As if what? As if the entire city has been erased. The words hang in the room like smoke. Erased. Cities don't erase. Cities burn, they crumble, they flood, they starve, but they don't simply cease to exist. Umezu stands. He is 63 years old. He has served in 3 wars, survived assassination attempts, overseen operations across China and the Pacific. He has learned to master his face, his voice, his body's betrayals. But something in his chest tightens now, something cold and specific, the feeling of standing on ground that is no longer solid. "Assemble the staff," he says. "War room immediately." The war room fills quickly. 27 men, ranging from captains to generals, representing every branch of Japan's military apparatus. They bring maps, reports, the accumulated data of a dying empire trying to calculate its own survival. Admiral Somu Toyoda, chief of the Naval General Staff, arrives last. He has the look of a man who has already heard the news and doesn't believe it. "What do we know?" he asks without preamble. Umezu nods to Captain Fuchida, who stands beside a map of southern Honshu with Hiroshima circled in red. At 8:15, all communications from Hiroshima cease simultaneously. Fuchida begins, his voice steady through sheer force of will. No air raid warning was issued. Weather reconnaissance reported clear conditions. At 8:20, we attempted radio contact with 2nd Army Headquarters, the 5th Division, the Chugoku Regional Army, the Kure Naval Base Communications Post. No response. Equipment failure, someone suggests. Across every installation simultaneously, Fuchida shakes his head. Impossible. Sabotage. To coordinate that scale of sabotage would require hundreds of operatives working in perfect synchronization, and it wouldn't explain the civilian communications blackout. Then what explains it? Toyoda's voice cuts through the speculation like a blade through water. Silence, the question sits there unanswerable. Finally, Lieutenant General Torashiro Kawabe, Deputy Chief of Staff, speaks. "There have been rumors from our intelligence officers. American scientists working on a new weapon, something beyond conventional explosives." The room shifts. Everyone has heard the rumors. Whispers from agents in neutral countries, intercepted communications, reports from German scientists before the collapse of the Third Reich. A bomb that splits atoms, that releases the energy of the sun, that can destroy entire cities with a single detonation. Most dismissed it as propaganda. American psychological warfare designed to induce panic, a weapon like that defied physics as they understood it. "You think the Americans have deployed this weapon?" Umezu's question is careful, probing. "I think," Kawabe says slowly, "that we need to consider possibilities we previously rejected as impossible." "Atomic theory," someone mutters. "Theoretical physics, not battlefield reality." "Hiroshima was battlefield reality an hour ago," Toyoda snaps. "Now it's silent. Perhaps it's time we expand our definition of reality." Tokyo Radio Center, 9:47 a.m. The decision is made to send a reconnaissance aircraft. A Mitsubishi Ki-46, fast and high altitude, capable of photographing from 30,000 feet. The pilot, Lieutenant Tatsuo Yokoyama, receives his orders with visible confusion. "Photograph what, sir?" "Hiroshima. The entire city. Whatever remains of it." Yokoyama salutes, climbs into his cockpit, and 20 minutes later is airborne, climbing through morning thermals toward the inland sea. In the war room, the waiting begins. This is the hardest part of command, the space between action and information, between order and outcome. The men smoke, drink tea that grows cold, study maps that suddenly seem inadequate. Umezu finds himself thinking about his childhood. Growing up in Oita Prefecture, watching his father, a minor samurai, adapt to the Meiji Restoration. The old world dying, the new world being born. His father used to say, "The hardest thing is not the change itself, but the moment when you realize change has already happened and you're still living in the old world." Is that what this is? The moment between worlds? At 11:03 a.m., Yokoyama's voice crackles over the radio. The transmission is broken, fragmentary, as if the pilot himself cannot believe what he's seeing. I can confirm visual contact with Hiroshima Bay, but the city." "Report, Lieutenant." "Sir, the city there's a cloud. Massive, rising from the center, smoke and debris reaching, I estimate 40,000 feet. The entire urban center appears to be, I don't have words, sir. It's gone, just gone." In the war room, no one moves. Gone, that word again. The word they've been circling around for 3 hours. "Can you see structures?" Umezu asks. "Buildings, roads?" "Negative, sir. There's too much smoke. But the fire isn't normal. It's not spreading like conventional bombing. It's everything. Everything is burning at once." "Casualties?" A long pause. When Yakama speaks again, his voice has changed, flattened. The voice of a man reporting numbers that have lost meaning. Sir, if anyone was in the city center, they're dead. All of them. I can't. I've never seen anything like this. This isn't war, this is apocalypse. Imperial Palace, 2:30 p.m. The report reaches Emperor Hirohito through Foreign Minister Shigenori Togo, who presents it with hands that shake despite his best efforts to control them. Your Majesty, we have confirmation. Hiroshima has been destroyed by a single bomb of unprecedented power. Casualties are estimated in the tens of thousands, possibly higher. The weapon appears to be of a type we have no defense against. Hirohito, 44 years old, slight of build, trained since birth to show no emotion, allows himself one visible reaction. His hand rises to his mouth, a gesture of shock so rare that Togo will remember it for the rest of his life. A single bomb. Yes, Your Majesty. And our response capabilities. This is the question that has no answer. Japan has no atomic program. German scientists attempted one and failed. American resources, American industrial capacity, American scientific establishment, they have built something Japan never could. The playing field hasn't just tilted, it has disappeared entirely. We are exploring options, Your Majesty. Hirohito turns to the window overlooking the palace gardens. Outside, summer is in full bloom. The world looks exactly as it did yesterday. But it will never be again. Summon the Supreme Council, he says quietly. We must consider what this means for the continuation of the war. Imperial Headquarters, August 7th, 3:00 a.m. General Umezu hasn't slept. Few have. The reports continue to arrive, each one worse than the last. Eyewitness accounts from survivors who fled the periphery, train conductors who saw the flash 30 miles away, sailors in Hiroshima Bay who watched the city ignite. The numbers begin to take shape. 70,000 dead immediately. Another 70,000 injured, many of whom will die in the coming days and weeks. A military garrison of 40,000 reduced to scattered survivors. The Second Army headquarters, the command center for Japan's entire southern defense, obliterated. But it's the description of the weapon that keeps Umezu awake. A single bomb, witnesses say, fell from a lone B-29. It detonated 2,000 feet above the city. For one instant, the temperature at ground zero reached 7,000 degrees. People directly beneath were vaporized, leaving only shadows burned into stone. The blast wave traveled at 984 feet per second, flattening everything within a mile radius. Then came the fire, feeding on the oxygen sucked back toward the detonation point, creating winds that reached 600 miles per hour. Physics as a weapon, science as genocide. At 3:47 a.m., his deputy Kawabe enters with a decoded message from Japanese intelligence officers in Switzerland. The Americans have issued a statement. President Truman has announced the deployment of an atomic bomb and warned that if Japan does not surrender, they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth. A rain of ruin. How many of these weapons do they have? 1, 10, 50. If they have more, Kawabe says quietly, reading Umezu's thoughts, we cannot defend against them. Anti-aircraft guns cannot shoot down what arrives at 30,000 feet without warning. Fighters cannot intercept what detonates before it lands. Civilians cannot shelter against what erases shelters. Then what do we do? Umezu asks, not really expecting an answer. We face a choice the samurai code never prepared us for. Do we fight to the last man against an enemy who can annihilate us without ever seeing our faces? Or do we surrender while there's still a nation left to surrender? The debate, August 7th, 10:00 a.m., Supreme War Council. 6 men sit around a table in a bunker beneath the Imperial Palace. Prime Minister Kentaro Suzuki, Foreign Minister Togo, War Minister Korchika Anami, Navy Minister Mitsumasa Yana, Army Chief Umezu, Navy Chief Toyoda. The meeting was supposed to be about strategic options. It becomes instead a philosophical battle over the meaning of honor, the definition of defeat, the question of what a nation owes its people when continuation means annihilation. Anami speaks first, his voice hard with conviction. We cannot surrender based on one attack, no matter how devastating. The Americans want us to panic, to believe they have unlimited weapons. This is psychological warfare. Psychological warfare that killed 70,000 people in an instant. Togo's voice rises despite his efforts to control it. Tragic, yes, but war is tragic. Okinawa killed 100,000. Tokyo firebombing killed 100,000. We did not surrender then. Those were conventional attacks, Yana interjects. This is different. If they have 10 of these weapons, they can erase our 10 largest cities in 10 days. Tokyo, Osaka, Nagoya, Yokohama, gone. The industrial base, the government, the military command structure, all erased. Then we fight from the mountains, Anami insists. We prepared for Operation Ketsugo, 2 million soldiers, 4 million civilians trained for resistance. We can bleed them enough that occupation becomes impossible. And how many Japanese die in that scenario? Togo asks. 5 million, 10 million, the entire population. If necessary, yes. Anami's words fall like stones. Better death with honor than survival with shame. This is the philosophical divide that has defined Japan's military culture for centuries. The samurai ethos, death before dishonor. But the samurai code was written for individual warriors making individual choices. Can you apply it to an entire nation? Can you demand that 70 million people choose death because surrender offends the honor of a few hundred officers? Suzuki, the prime minister, elderly and pragmatic, speaks with the careful weight of someone who knows his words will shape history. War Minister Anami, I respect your courage and your conviction, but I must ask you a question, and I ask you to answer honestly. Do you believe we can win this war? Silence. Not can we fight. I know we can fight. Japanese soldiers have never lacked courage. But can we achieve victory? Can we force American surrender? Can we create conditions where they agree to terms favorable to Japan? More silence, because everyone in the room knows the answer. If we cannot win, Suzuki continues, then every death from this point forward is not sacrifice for victory. It is sacrifice for pride. And I will not ask mothers to bury their sons for pride. With respect, Prime Minister, Anami's voice cracks slightly, the first break in his armor. What you call pride, I call identity. Without honor, what is Japan? Without Japanese people, Yanai says quietly, Japan is nothing. Honor is meaningless if there's no one left to remember it. August 8th, evening. The debate continues for 36 hours. Arguments circle and repeat. Positions harden. But beneath the surface, something is shifting, because while they argue, the world moves forward. Soviet Union declares war on Japan, invading Manchuria with overwhelming force. Allied bombers continue their conventional raids on smaller cities. And the Americans remain silent about whether more atomic weapons exist, which is perhaps the most terrifying silence of all. At 11:02 p.m. on August 8th, the phone in the war room rings. General Umezu answers it himself. Nagasaki has been attacked. Another bomb, same type, casualties unknown but estimated similar to Hiroshima. Umezu sets down the phone with extreme care, as if sudden movement might shatter what remains of the world. They have more, the question is answered. The Americans have more and they're willing to use them. He walks to the map on the wall, Hiroshima marked in red, now Nagasaki, which he circles with a trembling hand. 2 cities, 140,000 dead in 72 hours. If the Americans have 10 bombs, if they drop one every 3 days, in 30 days, 700,000 dead. In 60 days, over 1 million. And still they argue. August 9th, 11:00 p.m., Imperial Conference. Emperor Hirohito breaks protocol and speaks directly, ending the debate through the only means available, imperial will. I have listened carefully to all arguments. I understand the desire to fight for honor. But I have also heard the screams of Hiroshima. I have read the reports of children with their skin melting, of shadows burned into walls where people once stood, of mothers searching through ashes for children who no longer exist. His voice, usually so controlled, wavers. The war must end. I cannot bear to see my people suffer any longer. If continuation means the annihilation of the Japanese race, then I choose survival over honor. History will judge me, but I will not be the emperor who presided over Japan's extinction. In the corner of the room, War Minister Anami weeps silently. It is the first time anyone has seen him cry. The decision is made. Japan will surrender. On August 15th, Hirohito will address the nation by radio, the first time most Japanese citizens will hear their emperor's voice. He will announce the surrender in language so formal, so archaic, that many listeners won't immediately understand what he's saying. The war is over, not because Japan was defeated on battlefields, though it was, not because its navy was destroyed, though it was, not because its cities were bombed, though they were. It ended because science gave humanity the power to erase itself, and for the first time, a nation looked at that power and blinked first. August 15, 1945, after the broadcast, General Umezu sits alone in his office. On his desk, a sword, family heirloom, passed down through 6 generations. The samurai code would tell him to use it now, to die with honor rather than live with shame. He picks it up, feels the weight, thinks about his father, about tradition, about what honor means when the world has changed beyond recognition. Then he sets it down. He does not commit seppuku. He will instead face war crimes tribunals, will testify about decisions made and orders given. He will be convicted and sentenced to life in prison, where he will die of cancer in 1949. Before his death, he will write a letter to his son. In it, one paragraph stands out. We were taught that death with honor was the highest virtue, but I have learned something in these final years. There is a higher virtue, choosing life when death would be easier. Your emperor understood this. He bore the unbearable for his people. That is not weakness. That is the deepest strength. The story of August 6th through August 15th, 1945, is usually told from the American perspective. The decision to drop the bomb, the moral calculations, the lives saved versus lives taken. But there is another story. The story of men in Tokyo receiving phone calls that didn't make sense, staring at maps where cities used to be, trying to apply old rules to a new world. They failed initially. They argued about honor while their people burned. But in the end, they made a choice that probably saved millions of lives, Japanese and American both. They chose surrender. They chose survival. They chose the future over the past. If this story made you think differently about the end of World War II, about the decisions made on both sides, share it. History is always more complicated than we're taught, and the most important moments are often the ones we never hear about. The conversations in that war room, the tears of a war minister who realized his code no longer fit the world, the emperor who broke tradition to save his people, the general who set down his sword and chose to live with shame so that others might simply live. That's the real story of what happened when Japanese high command realized Hiroshima was gone. Not just the tactical response, but the philosophical earthquake. The moment when an ancient military tradition collided with modern science and tradition lost. Subscribe for more stories from the other side of history, the human moments behind the dates we memorize. Thank you for watching.